In a quiet valley surrounded by fields that glowed gold in late afternoon light, there lived a young couple who loved each other so dearly that even the wind that passed their window seemed to slow and listen to their laughter. Their house was small, built of river stone and timber, with a crooked chimney and a garden of their own where herbs and daisies swayed. They had everything they needed, except the one thing they longed for most: a child. Each evening, as dusk settled and fireflies began to blink, they would sit side by side beneath the window and dream aloud of a tiny heartbeat, a small hand to hold, a voice to call them Mama and Papa. For years they waited, whispering their hope into the night like a prayer carried by stars. At last, the prayer was heard. The woman found she was expecting. Joy filled the cottage, yet as her belly grew, her face became pale and her appetite strange. One morning, while she rested near the window, her gaze fell upon the neighboring house, a grand old mansion wrapped in ivy and rumor. Behind its high stone walls stretched a garden more vivid than any dream. Rows of emerald lettuce, glossy leaves glistening as though painted with dew and moonlight. The sight stirred something wild inside her. She could not stop thinking of that lettuce, its crisp scent, its shining green. Day after day she whispered, "If I could taste just one leaf, I know I would feel whole." The craving grew until she could hardly eat or sleep. Her husband, frightened by her fading strength, promised to find a way. That night, under a moon thin as a silver coin, he climbed the cold stone wall. The air inside the garden shimmered with enchantment. The hum of unseen insects, the perfume of earth and mystery. He gathered a handful of lettuce and fled before dawn. His wife ate greedily, color rushing back to her cheeks, but by morning she longed for more. The next night he returned, and that was when a voice, low and sharp as wind through glass, struck him still. "How dare you steal from me?" Out of the shadows stepped a tall woman draped in dark green velvet. Her hair fell like a black river. Her eyes gleamed the color of wet moss. Trembling, the man fell to his knees and told her everything: his wife's illness, the child she carried, his fear. The woman, the witch people whispered about, regarded him in silence. Then she smiled, and that smile was colder than moonlight on iron. "Take as much lettuce as she needs," she said softly, "but when the child is born, she will be mine." The man's heart froze, yet the thought of losing his wife was worse than any bargain. He bowed his head and agreed. Months later, cries of a newborn filled the cottage, bright and fragile as birdsong. The child was a girl, with hair like spun gold and eyes like sunlight on water. The parents wept with joy, but as dawn broke, the door creaked open, and the witch stepped inside, calm as a shadow. "A promise is a promise," she said. She lifted the baby gently, almost tenderly. "Her name shall be Rapunzel, after the plant that gave her life." Then she vanished, leaving silence and despair behind. Rapunzel grew beneath the witch's watchful eye in a hidden cottage deep within the forest, where trees whispered secrets to the wind. To the child, the witch, whom she called Mother Gothel, was all the world, stern, proud, sometimes kind, sometimes distant. Gothel taught her the ways of herbs, the reading of stars, the old songs that made flowers open and storms rest. Yet there were things she never taught, like what lay beyond the forest. When Rapunzel asked, her mother's voice would turn to frost. "The world beyond is cruel, my dove. People destroy what they do not understand. Stay with me, and you will be safe." So Rapunzel stayed, her world bounded by trees and sky. She grew graceful, thoughtful, endlessly curious. At night she would sing beside the window, her voice clear and pure, echoing through the pines. Birds gathered to listen. Even the river slowed its rush to hear her songs of imagined cities, faraway seas, and faces she had never seen. Gothel loved that voice. It reminded her of something lost long ago, and feared it too, for it carried dreams of freedom. When Rapunzel turned 16, Gothel led her to a tall tower hidden deeper in the woods, older than memory. built of pale stone that glowed faintly under starlight. There were no stairs, no doors, only a single window at the top. "You will live here now," Gothel said, her tone soft but final. "The world is not ready for you. I will bring you what you need." And so she did. Each time she came, she stood at the base of the tower and called in her lilting voice, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let your golden hair down." And the girl would lower her long braid, glittering like sunlight spilled from heaven, and the witch would climb. The tower became Rapunzel's universe, a narrow circle of stone, shelves of books, the sound of wind, the company of her songs. She filled her days with painting clouds she could see from the window, naming stars, and dreaming of freedom she could almost imagine but never touch. One afternoon, while she sang to chase the loneliness away, a young prince named Adrian rode through the forest. He was weary of courtly noise and hollow praise, seeking quiet to clear his mind. When the melody reached him, so delicate that the leaves trembled, he stopped his horse and listened. The song wrapped around him like warm light. He followed it until he stood at the foot of the strange tower. Looking up, he saw the open window, sunlight on golden hair, and a figure moving inside. But there was no way to reach her, no path, no stair. He returned the next day, and the day after that, drawn again and again by that voice that seemed to know every secret of his heart. One evening, hidden among the ferns, he saw an old woman approach. "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let your golden hair down," she called. A shining braid fell, and the woman climbed as easily as if she were made of smoke. When she was gone, the prince stepped forward, his pulse quickening. Mimicking her tone, he whispered, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let your golden hair down." To his wonder, the braid tumbled down once more. He climbed, each heartbeat a drum of disbelief, until he reached the window. Inside, Rapunzel turned, startled. "You're not my mother," she breathed. The prince bowed. "No, but I heard you sing. Your voice led me here. I had to see you." His honesty disarmed her. They spoke until the moon climbed high. He told her of the kingdom beyond the forest, of markets full of color, of oceans that breathed, of children laughing in the streets. Rapunzel listened as if hearing life itself for the first time. When he left, she felt the air hum with possibility. Night after night he returned, bringing small gifts. A book bound in blue leather, a silver comb, a shell from the sea. They laughed, shared stories, dreamed. Love bloomed quietly between them like light spreading through dawn. "One day," Adrian said, "I will take you away from here. I'll build you a home with windows open to the sky." Tears shone in her eyes. "I've never set foot on the ground," she whispered, "but I believe you." Together they planned her escape. Each visit, he brought her silk thread, and she wove it secretly into a rope, hiding it beneath the floorboards. But fate is a jealous watcher. One morning, as Gothel climbed the braid, Rapunzel, lost in daydreams, laughed and said, "Oh, mother, you climb so much slower than the prince does." The words slipped out like birds freed from a cage. Silence followed, deep, dreadful silence. Gothel's eyes darkened. "The what?" she whispered. Rapunzel's breath caught, but the truth was already between them. In fury, Gothel snatched a pair of shears and sliced the golden braid in one savage motion. The hair fell to the floor like a river of light. "Ungrateful child," she cried. "I gave you everything, safety, love, and you would throw it away for a stranger?" Her voice cracked with more sorrow than hate. That night, under a sky trembling with storm, she cast a spell. The tower shuddered, the air split with lightning, and in an instant, Rapunzel found herself standing barefoot in a barren desert. The air was dry, the horizon endless. The witch and the tower were gone. Alone, Rapunzel fell to her knees and wept until sleep took her. At the tower, Gothel tied the severed braid to a hook and waited. When the prince arrived at twilight, calling softly, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let your golden hair down," the braid fell as always. He climbed eagerly, heart full of hope, only to find the witch waiting. "She is gone," Gothel said. You will never see her again. He stepped back in horror, slipped, and fell. He landed among thorns that tore his skin and pierced his eyes. Pain blinded him, but he lived. For months he wandered the wild, guided only by memory and the sound of her songs echoing faintly in his mind.